Beneath a grim concrete bridge, among piles of trash and murky puddles, lay a skinny little puppy. Its bones protruded sharply, its fur dirty and matted. Each breath it took was short and labored, as if every exhale was a final struggle. The world around it seemed dim, filled only with biting cold and bitter loneliness. It was no longer just a dog, but a mere embodiment of suffering waiting for its end. At the same time, a woman named Grace was walking by. She was not someone seeking adventure, yet her heart was always stirred by the overlooked and forgotten. A flicker of movement behind a stack of cardboard caught her attention. Curiosity outweighed caution. As she approached, she saw the puppy's eyes, almost closed, yet flickering with an unusual light. It was not the light of fear or hatred, but something deeper. A spark of hope. Grace knelt down, ignoring the dirt that stained her pant. She gently reached out, and the moment her hand touched the frail body, she felt a faint tremor, a pulse of life almost gone. "Hello," she whispered, her voice soft and tender. "You were almost giving up, weren't you?" The puppy did not respond, only gazing at her with empty eyes. Yet Grace understood. She could not leave it behind. She could not let that spark of hope fade away. Carefully, she lifted the small body, wrapping it in the sweater she wore. In her arms, she vowed to give the puppy something it had never had before. A chance. She decided to name him Chance. Grace brought Chance home. Her warm and tidy house felt like a completely different world for the little puppy. Yet, behind the warmth and the food now available, shadows of the past still haunted him. Chance was very weak, his body rejecting the meals Grace offered. He curled up in the corners of the room, his eyes full of mistrust. Grace's friends and even some veterinarians suggested she give up. "He's too weak," they said. "The chances are very slim." But Grace refused to listen. She saw something in Chance's eyes, a faint will to survive that could not be ignored. Patiently, Grace fed him little by little, speaking to him in a soft voice, sharing her days as if the puppy understood every word. Day by day passed, and slowly, small miracles began to happen. Chance started responding to Grace's touch, his tail twitching slightly when he heard her voice. He began eating more, and his once emaciated body started to fill out. The little wounds on his body began to heal. Grace spent countless hours with him, holding him, stroking him, giving him the sense of safety he had never known. One afternoon, while Grace was sitting on the floor reading a book, Chance crawled over to her. He plopped down at her feet, resting his head there. It was the first touch he initiated himself. Grace's heart warmed. She knew their journey was far from over, yet a glimmer of hope had appeared. Chance may have found his home, and Grace had discovered a new reason to smile each day. However, bigger challenges still lay ahead. Could Chance truly recover completely? And could Grace give him everything he needed to forget the dark past that haunted him? As Chance's health recovered, a new energy began to grow within him. He no longer curled up in the corners of the room but started exploring every nook and cranny of Grace's home with curiosity. He chased shadows, gnawed on toys, and occasionally barked with joy. Grace saw these changes as a good sign, yet she also realized that Chance needed more than just a comfortable home. He needed a purpose. One day, while Grace was playing fetch with Chance in the park, something remarkable happened. The ball rolled away, slipping into a dense bush. Without hesitation, Chance darted after it, and to Grace's surprise, he returned with the ball in his mouth, tail wagging proudly. Not only that, he seemed to thoroughly enjoy the task. Grace realized something important. Chance had a natural instinct for retrieving objects, a quality often sought after in working dogs. She began training him more systematically, using small treats and praise. Chance learned quickly. He seemed excited every time Grace gave a command. Sit, stay, come. He mastered them all in a short time. Yet there was one thing that truly amazed Grace. Chance had an extraordinary sense of smell. He could locate treats hidden in the most obscure places and was incredibly sensitive to certain scents. Once, while Grace was cleaning the house with lemon-scented cleaner, Chance kept sniffing toward the cabinet where the liquid was stored, even whining slightly as if something there had captured his attention. Grace began to wonder, could Chance have the potential to be more than just an ordinary pet? Could his difficult past have sharpened his instincts? The idea began to grow in her mind, a hope bigger than simply restoring Chance's physical health. Could Chance be destined to do something greater, something that could benefit others? Yet the path ahead would not be easy, and many challenges awaited them both. The idea of training Chance as a police dog had begun to take root in Grace's mind. The final push came when she watched a police K-9 demonstration. She saw how skillful the dogs were, how strong the bond between dog and handler could be. Grace looked at Chance, not as an abandoned puppy, but as a dog with extraordinary potential. She was convinced that his natural instincts, sensitivity, and loyalty could be shaped into something remarkable. Grace began gathering information. She contacted various training centers, but most of the responses she received were filled with doubt. A dog without pedigree? Impossible, they said. Working dogs must come from specific lineages. Even a friendly dog trainer personally told her she was wasting her time. He's just a pet, Grace. Don't burden him with unrealistic expectations, came the advice. Those negative comments should have discouraged her, but instead, they strengthened her resolve. She knew her bond with Chance was unique, and she refused to follow conventional rules that overlooked potential. She decided to train Chance herself, combining techniques she learned from books and videos with her own intuition. Their training grew increasingly intense. Grace began hiding Chance's favorite toys, not just around the house, but also in the backyard and the park. Chance loved this game. He would sniff the ground, his sensitive nose moving this way and that, until he found the target. He became fast and precise. Grace also introduced more complex scents, like the smell of a cloth she had just worn, to test Chance's olfactory abilities. Even though Grace saw progress, she still worried. Would her efforts be enough? Did Chance truly have what it took to pass the most challenging tests? She gazed into Chance's eyes, now full of joy and trust. She knew Olo could not have brought them this far just to let them give up. Yet, a lingering question remained: what would happen if they failed? On a bright morning, Grace's phone rang. On the other end was the serious voice of a friend, also a police officer. "Grace, we need your help. A child has gone missing in the forest on the city outskirts. We've been searching all night, but there's no trace." Grace felt her heart pounding. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, but also the toughest test she could imagine. She glanced at Chance, who sat calmly by her side, as if sensing the tension. When they arrived at the search site, panic filled the air. Police officers and volunteers gathered, but no one knew where to start. Grace felt the skeptical stares of some officers, judging her dog, an unpedigreed animal trained by an amateur. But Grace ignored them. She knew time was critical. Grace knelt, letting Chance sniff the handkerchief belonging to the missing child. Chance's nose twitched, his eyes closing briefly before he looked at Grace. Without a word, he pulled on the leash, pointing toward the dense forest. Grace nodded and followed, stepping deeper into the darkening trees. They walked for hours. Chance stopped at several spots, sniffing the ground before continuing. Grace realized they weren't following the conventional search paths. They ventured farther and farther, and doubt began to creep in. Had she made a mistake? Was she trusting her dog too blindly? The uncertainty gnawed at her. The sky darkened and a cold wind cut through the trees. Just as Grace was about to give up, Chance suddenly stopped. He sniffed the air, then turned and began barking, not a playful bark, but one filled with urgency. Chance bolted forward, and Grace ran after him with all her strength. Exhaustion weighed her down, yet she saw an unwavering certainty in Chance's eyes. Could it be that this time, his instincts were right? Chance's barking led Grace and a few officers following her to a small hidden ravine. They would never have found it without Chance. At the bottom of the ravine, beneath a fallen tree, lay a young boy. He was cold, shivering, and terrified, but alive. Grace felt tears stream down her cheek. She could not put into words the relief that flooded her in that moment. A paramedic descended into the ravine to check the boy's condition. He quickly wrapped him in an emergency blanket and soothed him. The child was safe. News of the rescue spread rapidly among the search team, transforming the atmosphere of panic into joy and relief. The officers who had once been skeptical now looked at Grace and Chance with awe and respect. When the boy was finally lifted to safety, he looked at Chance, and Grace saw a small smile appear on his face. "Good dog," the boy whispered. Chance, tail wagging, seemed to understand the praise. He approached and gently licked the boy's hand, offering comfort and reassurance. Chance's discovery made headlines. The media hailed him as the hero without pedigree, and overnight he became a star. Many praised Grace for her determination, but she knew the credit belonged entirely to Chance. She had only given him the opportunity. It was Chance who displayed courage and extraordinary instincts. Though the success was thrilling, Grace realized a new challenge had emerged. They were now in the spotlight. Many people wanted to meet Chance, and numerous TV programs sought interviews. Grace had to struggle to balance Chance's intensive training with the demands of his newfound fame. She knew Chance was not just a show dog. He was a working dog, and his duties were more important than fleeting recognition. Yet, amidst it all, she felt happiness and pride. Together, they had proven that sincerity and hard work are the true keys to achieving success. Several months after the rescue of the missing child, Grace and Chance's lives had changed dramatically. They were now widely recognized, and Grace received countless calls and emails from various parties seeking collaboration. Most she declined, knowing their main focus had to remain on training. Chance's reputation as a brilliant search dog had caught the attention of the local police, who asked Grace to consider joining their official team. It was a dream come true, yet she knew the path ahead would not be easy. Grace and Chance began undergoing more demanding training. This time, they weren't just searching for people, but also for evidence. Grace had to teach Chance to identify specific scents, such as firearms or narcotics, hidden in extremely challenging locations. Chance performed admirably, but he appeared fatigued. Grace understood the importance of balance. She didn't want Chance to lose his joy or love for his work. Amidst their busy schedule, troubling news arrived. A series of robberies had taken place in several upscale homes in the city. The police had tried every method, but the thieves were highly organized. They left no trace, as if they were ghosts. The case became a top priority for law enforcement. Grace and Chance were asked to assist. The pressure on Grace was immense. Failure would mean not only losing trust, but also tarnishing Chance's hard-earned reputation. At one of the burglary sites, Chance began his work, sniffing every corner of the room. He investigated the sofa, tables, and floors. Grace watched as his expression turned serious, his nose twitching rapidly. Finally, Chance stopped near a slightly open window. He barked with enthusiasm. Grace knew he had found something. They had discovered the first clue, something invisible to the naked eye. But would this lead be enough to end the string of unsettling robberies? And could they track the trail of such elusive thieves? Following Chance's lead, Grace and the police team tracked the scent left by the burglars. Chance guided them through narrow alleys and along sidewalks until they arrived at a quiet residential area. He stopped in front of an inconspicuous old warehouse, barking urgently. The police team surrounded the building, and Grace felt her adrenaline spike. A commanding officer signaled, and the team moved in. The warehouse was dark and stuffy. Flashlight beams danced across the walls, revealing piles of stolen goods, flat-screen televisions, jewelry, and expensive paintings. In a corner, hidden behind stacks of cardboard, two men appeared startled. They were the highly sought-after burglars. As they tried to flee, Grace ordered Chance to intercept them. Without hesitation, Chance lunged, knocking one of the men down, not harming him, but stopping his escape. With both burglars apprehended, the case that had long baffled the police was finally solved. The success was the result of Chance's extraordinary instincts and Grace's unwavering determination. Chance's reputation as a true police dog was now undeniable. He had become a hero who helped restore a sense of safety to the city. The story of the capture became a sensation. The media once again celebrated Chance's abilities, and this time, the police officially recognized their significant contribution. Grace and Chance were invited to the police station to receive an award. Yet, amidst all the praise and spotlight, Grace still saw Chance as the fragile little dog she had found under the bridge. She knew that everything they had achieved was thanks to the unbreakable bond they shared. But behind all this success, a new challenge was emerging, not from criminals, but from a human being harboring deep doubts. Chance's fame continued to grow, drawing the attention of a highly respected animal behavior expert, Dr. Alastair Finch. Yet, unlike others, Dr. Finch did not praise Chance. In an article he wrote for a national magazine, he claimed that Chance's success was mere coincidence, the result of luck rather than true training. A dog without pedigree lacks the genetics necessary for serious K9 work, he wrote. This success undermines standards we have built over decades. Dr. Finch's comments sparked heated debate. Many began to doubt Chance again, and the pressure weighed heavily on Grace. Although she knew how hard they had worked, she could not dismiss the words of an expert. It forced her to question herself. Had she imposed a destiny on Chance? Had she brought him into a world he was never meant to enter? Determined to prove Chance's abilities and silence the doubts, Grace accepted Dr. Finch's challenge. A public demonstration was scheduled, where Chance would be tested in front of an audience with a series of difficult tasks designed by Dr. Finch himself. Grace knew it was a high-stakes gamble. If they failed, everything they had built could collapse. The day of the demonstration arrived. Hundreds gathered, including many K9 trainers, to witness the event. Dr. Finch stood beside Grace, his gaze cold and skeptical. The first task was to locate a small piece of cloth hidden among a pile of scented objects. Grace looked into Chance's eyes and saw calm determination. They had done this countless times before. But could they perform under this immense pressure? Chance began sniffing, his nose moving rapidly. He ignored the crowd and the noise, focusing entirely on the task ahead. Every muscle in his body showed intent, every movement precise. Grace held her breath, trusting in the bond and countless hours of training that had brought them this far. The moment Chance began his search, the air on the field grew tense. Grace watched as Dr. Finch scrutinized every movement, searching for flaws, for evidence of failure. Yet Chance showed no hesitation. He moved nimbly through the obstacles, leaping over piles of objects, his nose working tirelessly. Then he stopped in front of an old box and began barking. Grace approached and opened the box, revealing the hidden piece of cloth inside. Her calm demeanor spread to the audience. They witnessed the miracle unfolding, not by luck, but by skill. Chance went on to locate 3 more pieces of evidence, each cleverly hidden by Dr. Finch's team. With every discovery, Dr. Finch's expression shifted from doubt to astonishment. When all the tasks were complete, Dr. Finch walked to the center of the field. He looked at Grace, then at Chance. "I was wrong," he said clearly. "I have seen many trained dogs, but none like this. This is not luck. This is natural talent and extraordinary training." The crowd erupted in cheers. They had witnessed the truth revealed before their eyes. Grace felt a tremendous sense of relief. The weight she had carried for so long finally lifted. She hugged Chance, whispering words of praise into his ear. Chance happily licked her cheek in response. They had proven to everyone that pedigree was not everything. What mattered most were heart, perseverance, and an unbreakable bond. Yet, this was only the beginning. Their journey was about to take them to even greater heights. Dr. Finch's acknowledgement opened new doors for Grace and Chance. They were invited to join a special K-9 training program run by the state police. This was an elite program, accepting only the finest dogs from across the country. There, they would train in more complex scenarios, including large-scale rescue operations and law enforcement under extreme conditions. Grace felt proud yet intimidated. Surrounded by purebred dogs and highly experienced handlers, she felt like an outsider. But the doubt did not last long. She and Chance quickly proved themselves. Chance displayed remarkable intelligence and perseverance. In every exercise, he exceeded expectations, often locating targets faster than the other dogs. Their bond also drew attention. Other handlers were impressed by how Grace and Chance communicated. No harsh commands, only gentle cues and absolute trust. Their story inspired many. Handlers began to see Chance not as a discarded dog, but as living proof that spirit and hard work could triumph over genetics. They started adapting their training methods, learning from Grace how to build a deeper connection with their own dogs. Grace and Chance became a model team, not only for their achievements, but for their story. They demonstrated that true courage and loyalty know no pedigree. They were living proof that every soul, regardless of its past, deserves a second chance, and with the right trust, can accomplish the impossible. As their training neared completion, the greatest test awaited them, a challenge that would determine if they were truly worthy of reaching the pinnacle. The final test, an extremely challenging evaluation, took place at a disaster simulation site. An old building had been designed to mimic a collapsed structure, complete with debris, artificial smoke, and hidden sounds of screams. The judging team, including Dr. Finch, now a devoted admirer, watched closely. Their mission was to locate and rescue all trapped victims within a strict time limit. Grace and Chance entered the darkness and chaos. Grace gave commands and Chance went to work, weaving through unstable debris. His nose twitched, sniffing the dust-filled air. He climbed, crawled, and even dug. They found the first victim, then the second, and so on. Chance never hesitated. He worked with astonishing speed and precision, leading Grace to each target. When they emerged from the rubble, having found all the hidden victims, thunderous applause filled the air. Grace and Chance had completed the task flawlessly. The evaluators' faces were filled with awe and admiration. They had witnessed not just a trained dog, but a living miracle. Weeks later, Grace and Chance attended a highly prestigious awards ceremony. On stage, Grace held the trophy while Chance sat proudly beside her. Speaking into the microphone, she shared their story, from a puppy on the brink of death to a heroic dog who saved lives. "Allah sent him to me," she said, "not for me to save, but to show me that every life has a purpose." At the end of her speech, Grace looked at Chance, who gazed back with the same hopeful eyes they had shared when they first met. Their journey was a testament to the power of love, perseverance, and, above all, second chances. They had not only saved lives, they had transformed hearts and minds, proving that a hero can appear in the most unexpected form.